It's crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Welcome to Daytona International Speedway, home of the opening round in the EnduroPro series, and we'll bring it to you live on the Global Sim Racing channel. I'm your host, Joe Peak. With me in the booth today is your guide to the C1 class, Kevin Brown. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks, Joe. Glad to be at the World Center of Racing.
Also with us is the C2 ringleader, Mr. Richard Losper. I'm looking forward today, Richard.
So am I, Joe. So am I.
And to keep us abreast of everything in the C3 class, we have Dusty Peterson. Ready for today, Dusty?
As ready as any of us can be in the wild world of sim racing.
Then, of course, behind the scenes is our director, Giancarlo Lenzi, ready to guide your attention for all 120 minutes of racing today. And that 120 minutes, as we said, will take place here on Daytona International Speedway. And Richard, this place is legendary in the world of racing. There's a lot of history here.
Absolutely, Joe. It's an absolutely iconic racetrack. And today, these people, of course, will be using the road course, which is different. I mean, it uses 3/4 of the oval, broken only by the infamous, or should I say famous, bus stop at turns 9 and 10. A tricky course, Joe. You've got that very, very fast entry into turn 1, where you have to slow down the cars from maximum speed to get it around a left-hand turn. You then go through a couple of horseshoes, the International Horseshoe first, and that's followed by the Western Horseshoe. The entry onto the oval is very tricky, and of course the bus stop can catch out many a driver with a slowdown penalty if they don't get it right. But then it's all banking, and you reach high speeds up on the banking, so it's going to be very interesting. The other thing is, of course, you've got 3 different classes here. I noticed that the C1 class is about 6 seconds faster than the C2 class. So after about 10 or 12 laps, they should start to mix it up. So looking forward to it, Joe. It's going to be a great race.
Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Well, we actually have a lap around here so you can see a driver's eye view, what it's like going around this incredibly fast course. So we're going to pull up that and show you what it's like on board. All right, let's do a lap around Daytona's road course with Kevin Brown behind the wheel of the GSRC HPD. Coming up to the start-finish line down towards turn 1 right away. Very late braking all the way to the flat here, and then super thread the needle through this corner. And look at how the car slides on exit just from all the momentum you have to carry with this car. Through the chicane towards the International Horseshoe. This is a corner where it always feels like you're just leaving a little bit too much on the table, but at the same time, it's so easy to carry the momentum too much into that corner and go wide. Now through the kink, flat out through here, on into the western horseshoe. Another very late braking corner, and it's so tough to hit the apex here because of the way this corner is shaped, but before you know it, you're back on the power and heading towards turn 6. This is one of the most important corners on the course. Heavy braking here, possibly a passing zone, but it's a short burst. And then exiting here is so crucial. You have to be so confident to get on the power as soon as you can because you're onto the oval for the first time here. If you don't get on the power soon enough, the guy behind you might have a chance to look inside coming into the bus stop, and he's going to have to be brave, and you'll see why in a second. Coming up to the brake markers here, we're not going to brake at the third one, not the second one, all the way to the first one, and then fly through here with all the downforce this car has, and then get back on the power once again because it's back onto the oval. And yet again, because of the downforce, this car just cuts a huge hole in the air, so the guy behind you is going to catch a huge draft if he's close enough, so that's why you just can't leave any tenths on the table. Coming down to the start-finish line, you've completed a lap around Daytona International Speedway. And that was an impressive lap around here by Kevin. But there's definitely a lot of differences between these three cars. And in fact, I mean, tell us a little bit about how what differentiates the HPD, Kevin, from our other two classes, with it being the fastest.
Well, the most important difference is downforce. It has lots and lots and lots and lots of downforce, and it doesn't have a lot of weight, so it can carry enormous amounts of speed in the corners. However, Daytona's a little tricky because it doesn't have a lot of high-speed corners, and so its advantage gets reduced, especially when you consider the Corvette and its top-end speed, Richard.
Yeah, that's quite right. The Corvette, on the other hand, is a fairly heavy car. But we're going to be using a lot of the oval here, so the Corvette will really be able to put the power down around the oval, and it's going to be interesting to see how it matches up. We know that the HPDs, with their nimbleness, I should say, through the corners are going to be faster, but when we get onto the oval, it's going to be really interesting to see how the Corvettes handle around there, because they can really rev up and get some power down.
And then the final class is the C3 class, which is the McLarens, Dusty.
And the McLarens have turned around quite a bit. Last race, we talked quite a bit about how it's a very forgiving car to drive, but it's been changed up a lot in the service with the last update. We've got all new suspension geometry, and we've got all new tires, and it's definitely a bit twitchier of a car this time. It's fairly light, good power to weight. Around this track, you're not running a lot of downforce. This is a track that's pretty smooth, so there's not a lot of big curbs and things like that. So I think it'll, we'll see a pretty good showing from the MP4s here. It's great under braking, so that scary turn 1 is not so scary these days. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I expect them to do very well in the infield. Of course, they're going to be slower around the oval.
Yes, and all of these cars, if you're not familiar with endurance racing, will be on the track at the same time for all 120 minutes, so they have to navigate one another. So if you're new to endurance mixed class racing, you are in for a treat, because it's a little bit of chaos, but a whole lot of action and excitement. We don't have any cars on the track, however, though, because right now we have a drivers' meeting going on. They've just finished qualifying, and we'll read that to you in a second here. But so right now they're just going through that. However, while you're waiting for the green flag to drop and during the race, you can get a hold of us, ask any questions, and keep more up to date on what's going on through various social media. Obviously, the Facebook page of the EnduroPro Series is at EnduroPro Series, one word. Also, you can check out their sponsor, Deco Designs, at their Facebook as well. And you can check out the Twitter at EnduroPro Series, and the hashtag is RUFastEnough. The letter R, the letter U, and then fast, ENUF. Also, you can get a hold of us here at GSRC at GSR Channel and ask us questions. We'll try to answer them as the race continues on. We looks like qualifying has elapsed. I'm going to let that go just a little bit until they line up on the grid, and I'm getting word actually that they're gridding right now, so it looks like we should be ready to go through. We'll start with the pole position overall and in C1 class, and that is Troy Schultz yet again, proving himself to be very fast. Then outside the front row we have Anthony Kopech. Then it's Iker Estefania starting in third. Then João Vaz didn't quite do as good this time as he did last time in qualifying, starting in fourth. Dennis Garis in fifth. Lars Conrad in sixth. Anton Volodin in seventh. Mark Mucky in eighth. And then Ramon Saez in ninth. And then we have Richard to take us through the C2 class.
Well, in the C2 class, top of the pops, so to speak, is Kevin O'Keefe with a very good time of 1 minute 38.890. Behind him, Andre Martins, then Stefan Overgaard, who we know very well, Ruben Velasco, Brian Herring, David DeRoche, Manuel Sanchez, Francisco Albert, Carlos Foss, Sean O'Hara, Tim Abbott, and João Oliveira. Dusty?
All right, and rounding up the field with the McLaren MP412C. Starting out, we've got a really tight pack up the front, led up by Tom Valentini, followed by Andreas Almensberger, Joao Cardozo, Patrick Pitchler, Paulo Martins, Mert Uzel, Bjorn Erik Fladmark, Omar Zanchi, Derek Waller, Cedric Finzak, Mike Sargent, Jarrett Lawson, and Mark Hewitt.
And they're getting ready to head out on their pace lap now. So as we let them kind of go their way around, Kevin, Dusty mentioned that they have a new tire model on this car. And for those not familiar to sim racing, why don't you tell us a little bit about how that makes a difference and what that means?
Well, it makes a difference because it completely alters the way the car handles, especially when you start getting close to the limit, to the edges of traction, and so that's a big difference in the change for the drivers. But they're not the only ones the McLareners are not the only drivers who have to deal with that. There's been a bunch of changes to the HPD, and drivers are struggling with that. Some of the guys have adapted well. Troy Schultz apparently has adapted very well, and some of the other guys not so much. So that's going to be a theme throughout the race that we're going to have to pay attention to, is who's been able to adapt to the changes in their class car and can continue to keep the car on the track for the rest of the race.
Yeah, and that's kind of a feature of endurance racing is you got to make it to the end. The old racing adage goes, to finish first you must finish, and that is doubly so true in endurance racing. Now, Dusty, this is the first official round in the points championship for this series. And so in real life, we're starting it off here in Daytona. And, you know, I have to admit, there's a bit of a sentimental feel to doing so with them imitating the real life series. I actually was in Daytona a week ago watching the real Tusk race, and it is something to behold around here. There's just a special quality about this track.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, for real racing and sim racing alike, this track is very prominent. I myself have probably put in hundreds, if not thousands, of laps at this place over the years here with iRacing. It's a great track. It has a lot of different challenges on it. It's got a lot of high banking. It's got a lot of sharp, flat corners and things like that. It's definitely a good track to start out with because, you know, it causes drivers to have to think in a lot of different ways, especially in multi-class racing where you're dealing with these extremely high differences in speed between the cars on those banked sections.
And, you know, the other thing is that we're racing at night today, and that's going to play a difference, Richard, with, you know, the three different car classes. It's not always so easy to tell which headlights are coming up on you in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, luckily this track is very well lit, Joe, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. The other thing we must quickly note as they go through the bus stop now is that there is a gap between the classes at the beginning of the race, so that is a good thing. It'll space them out a little bit, and the start should hopefully be nice and clean. And they've just gone through the bus stop now. They're on the banking, Joe, for the final couple of corners before the start of the race, so back to you.
Yes, and another thing to note that's special about the starts in the EPS series is the way they'll take the green flag. You'll see the green flag come out here when the pace car comes in, but they will not go on the green. Each class will wait until they get to the line, and then they are allowed to accelerate. So we'll have a little bit of a weird delay here, and then they will take off. So pace car is actually just about to pull in here into the pit lane. So we are going to get ready to take the green very soon here. There he goes. Troy Schultz is now leading the field up to the line. Green flag waves. He's waiting to get to the line here. Cars are antsy to get started behind him. There's the line, and off they go. C1 class is away, heading towards turn 1. Let's see if they can get through there cleanly. There's not going to be a lot of acceleration here, so everyone should be able to navigate this fairly well, especially with a long race ahead of them. Not seeing any problems so far, and it looks like they're all through. Richard, what's the C2 class?
C2 has just crossed the line, and they're taking off. We have our leader, Kevin O'Keefe, leading them into turn 1. Andre Martins behind him. A challenge there from Stefan Overgaard. And Ruben Velasco filling out the 4th row. Everybody gone through clean at this point, Joe.
And now C3 has just hit the checkers. They are taking off right now. Everybody's looking clean into turn 1 so far. We've got the 3 teammates up front, Andreas Almensberger, Tom Valentini, and Patrick Pitchler.
And it looks like Milton Carvalho has had to start from pit lane since he did not put a qualifying lap in, so he is going to start from the very back. And unfortunately, not a lot of chaos for him to take advantage of. So it looks like everyone is through clean so far. Kevin, it looks like Troy Schultz is already making good of that lightning fast pace.
Yeah, you said it. Troy has got about a 2-second lead already. He is kicking some butt on this opening lap.
However, Anthony Kopech is not. He is all the way down to 4th from what I'm seeing. João Vaz has moved up a position into 3rd. And in the meantime, Iker Estefania has put himself into 2nd. So a little bit of shuffling going on in that C1 class as those guys get themselves sorted out. Oh, and there's Lars Conrad is under attack from Anton Volodin as they come across the line here. Let's see if he's got the inside. So this should be an easy move for him, I would anticipate.
Yeah, looks like it. Yep, clean into turn 1. Oh, he goes deep. He's missed his braking point completely, and he's going to spin it on the cold concrete. He's got to sort it out and rejoin safely before the Corvettes show. There's another HPD there, and looks like it's going to be a little close, and everybody's cleaned up into the S's.
And passed up by Ramon Salye, so Anton Volodin is put to the back of the pack. But, you know, as we always say with this sort of racing, Kevin, if you're going to have a problem like that, at least it's at the start and not the end.
And that was a good move by Anton. Just go ahead and run it deep into the big open area there on the apron on the turn 1 instead of trying to turn in when you're still carrying too much speed and loop it back into the wall. So that was some heads-up driving to make sure the car stays clean.
And speaking of that bus stop and how it can cause some trouble, we already have an MP4 out of the race. Jarrett Lawson got tangled up, had a bit of a tank slapper coming out of that bus stop, and ended up in the outside wall.
Let's see if we can get a replay of that pulled up, and that's unfortunate to hear. We follow Jarrett Lawson quite a bit in the CESCS, and we're very familiar with him. So, yeah, from what I'm seeing of the replay, it looks like you're right. He just got a little bit out of control, and go ahead.
Joe, we just had a 3 wide a moment ago with Ramon Salles, Anton Volodin, and Mark Mucky. Looks like Volodin's going to take the position into the bus stop, but they're sorted out, and Volodin's back on the chase again behind Lars Conrad.
Wow, he wasted no time in trying to make progress through there. So I guess he is on his way, and that should put him actually just about back to where he was, because I believe, yeah, Lars Conrad was who he was fighting last. That was in 6 and 7. So Anton essentially only lost 1 position over the course of that lap. Not really much lost for him there. Otherwise, it looks like things are starting to sort themselves out. We got a little bit of a battle between João Vaz and Anthony Kopech and Iker Estefania. Those guys are fairly close, but nothing really going on there at the moment. Let's hop back to C2 and see if there's any good battles. In fact, I see one going for the lead now, Richard.
Absolutely. Kevin O'Keefe had a good lead at the start of the race, but Andre Martins has cut that lead back, and he was challenging very strongly into turn 1 there. He's fallen back into line now, but Stefan Overgaard in 3rd place is making up some time on these guys. Kevin O'Keefe had a really good lead, but that is now completely gone, and these guys are fighting hard for that first place. Andre Martin's driving extremely well. He used the draft to great effect to catch up to Kevin O'Keefe on the banking, Joe.
Yeah, and that draft lock is going to be something that you'll notice a lot throughout the course of this race as we watch them re-enter the oval right now. Andre Martin's trying to get back up to Kevin O'Keefe. He's lost a bit of space and now seems to be fairly under threat from Stefan Overgaard. And Kevin is, of course, in that red car with Andre Martin's in that yellow and black machine that you see on your screen, Stefan in the blue and white. They're heading towards the bus stop right now, which I have to imagine with the speed these cars get is fairly frightening, trying to brake and get it slowed down and through that chicane there, Richard.
Absolutely. And did our leader get a slowdown penalty? It looked very suspect, that exit of his through the bus stop there. But looks like he's still going fast, so he didn't get a slowdown. Lucky one for him there. You can see how fast Andre Martins is coming off the banking out of the bus stop. So he's got the bus stop. He's the best of the three top guys so far through the bus stop as they concertina and close right up into turn one. Hard braking for Stefan Overgaard there, but they still single file. So the race continues with Kevin O'Keefe in the lead, who seems to be very good through the infield, Joe.
We got a little bit of word from one of our spotters, though, that Kevin might have brushed the wall coming out of that bus stop. So he's got to watch out for that, how hard he pushes so early on. Don't want to damage your car at this point in the race. He seems to be okay, though, not really losing much to those guys behind him. But yeah, it's looking like a good battle up front here for this C2 class right at the start.
Yes, I think that Andre Martins is looking very pacey at the moment. It'll be interesting to see how he handles this lap here. Seems like Kevin gets a lead on them through the infield, and then you can see how Andre Martins closes up very, very much as they come onto the banking. And when they go through NASCAR 3 and 4, you will see that he is right on him. He's braking now for the bus stop, and Kevin has a good exit through there. Great racing from these guys. Now we'll see Andre Martins put that power down and catch up to Kevin. The gap is visibly lessening as we speak, and he'll be challenging once again by turn one. But Kevin and Andre are both brave through turn one. They go side by side. Looks like Andre's got it this time, Joe. He definitely has passed him completely. What is Kevin going to do? Kevin backs it off, and he's now in second place. Back to you, Joe.
Yeah, I think that was a smart thing to do. Like we keep saying, it's very early in the race for them to be battling this hard for the lead, so I think it's wise to not fight too hard. I'm getting word that we might have had something going on in the C3 class, though. Dusty, what do you see?
So far, what I see is a bunch of guys running really good laps and playing this really smart. We've got a pack about 7 strong that are keeping together, and a pretty good draft line going around the track. It's going to be a lot of good racing here. These guys are taking it pretty easy. There's been a few changes of position coming into turn one here throughout the race, but for the most part, I think these guys are holding out a little bit to see how things wrap up once everybody's tires get all nice and warmed up.
With everyone being so trepidatious in this early stages, Dusty, who do you have your eye on? Who's caught your eye during practice and qualifying that drivers need to watch out for as this race plays out?
It's tricky here. We've got a lot of really closely matched drivers. In the qualifying race, we had a lot of attrition. There was a lot of contract, especially a lot of the MP4s got wrapped up in collisions with some of those HPDs that maybe weren't quite so familiar with multi-class racing. So I'm really interested to see how these guys run this time around, now that they've got the ability to run in a tighter pack. I know Tom Valentini showed himself as a very clean driver, and he's at the front of the qualifying. I think he's going to have a good showing today if he can keep it clean.
Yeah, and that's another thing that our viewers need to be aware of. There are live marshals and live stewards on the course of this race that will give drivers a black flag if they are not behaving. So we saw that at Suzuka. We will see that again, so drivers need to be on their best behavior. They did get a bit of a talking to try and clean up their act, because we saw a fair bit of contact around the tight confines of that Japanese circuit. So We are 3 laps into the race at this point and only about 10 minutes in, so it's extremely early days. Let's hop back up to the C1 class. We haven't checked in there in a while. And Kevin, has there been anything good going on?
Well, we may not have checked in a while, but Troy Schultz has checked out. 7.5-second lead over Iker Estefania last time by. Good little battle has been brewing between Joao Vaz and Iker Estefania, as well as Dennis Garis and Anthony Kopek. But unfortunately, we have lost one driver, Anton Bolodin, spun it into turn 1 and actually hit the inside of the pit exit wall and completely destroyed his car, so he is out of the race, unfortunately, on lap 3, Joe.
Oof, that's a bit crushing to have that happen so early on. And just shows you, even with all the downforce these cars have, how tricky that turn 1 can be. And, you know, speaking of the downforce, I see that we're starting to catch up with the C3 class here with Troy Schultz running through a few cars at the back end of that field. I would imagine that the high downforce compromises these cars a bit on the top end. So what's that going to mean for trying to pass some of these slower classes?
Well, you're definitely going to see the HPDs making possibly very late moves into the 2 horseshoes, the Western Horseshoe and the International Horseshoe. Those are the 2 hairpins on the infield, where that's really easy for them to outbrake all the other cars. The McLaren, though, does have ABS, and that's going to be a help for the McLaren. It's going to annoy the HPDs. But the other great spot is the bus stop. There's such a top-end speed difference between the HPD and the McLaren that it should be really easy to outbrake the car into the bus stop. And again, the HPD carries just tremendous speed through the bus stop, so that again is an advantage for them.
And as you were talking about that, we saw Bjorn Fladmark get a little bit of a scare from Schultz as he tried to weave his way through those guys. And actually, I'm looking now, and I see a bit of a battle going on, Dusty, between Mert Utzel and Paulo Martins, and that is for 23rd and 24th overall, heading into turn 1 right now.
Absolutely. I was talking about how these guys are keeping it pretty chill so far, but Paulo there definitely he's on a mission. He wants to make up some positions early on. He's made a few moves. He did manage to get past Mert there about a lap ago, but unfortunately, with traffic as it is, they were side by side in a couple corners, and I think he actually lost a couple spots. But he's pushing pretty hard. I think if he can keep this kind of pressure up, he'll make up some spots.
Well, right now, it's a lot of action going on here at the top of the C3 class, because even though Tom Valentini's got a bit of a gap behind him, it's Andres Almensberger, João Cardoso, Patrick Pickler, Mert Utzel, Paulo Martins, all these guys all in a line. Whoa, and we see a bit of contact between Iker Estefania and Omar Zanchi at the back of that tail there. But, wow, a lot of guys really close together, and that's second through what looks like 6th place right now.
Yeah, definitely. These cars are a bit lighter. They're a bit lower on power than some of the other cars in the series. And what that means on a track like this is there's a lot of your top end is held down a lot by aerodynamics, which means the draft plays a big part. So as long as these guys can stay in a pack, there's going to be constant action.
So I guess these guys have to take a bit of a card from NASCAR-style racing and learn how to race in a pack here. And boy, are these guys getting a lesson right now as we see João start to try and make a move around the outside of Almensberger. And they've got a 3-wide situation as João Vaz just screams by them. And more HPDs, everyone just getting all bunched up. 3-wide into turn 1 as they head into the braking. And it looks like Cardoso is able to hold on as we have an MP4 going way wide. They're all just accordioning up. Everyone miraculously gets through there with no contact. That was impressive.
I think there actually might have been a little bit of contact there between, at least between Paulo Martins and Patrick Pichler there. I saw him kind of bobbling around. It's a little hard to tell from my seat, but things got really, really close.
Yeah, right now Pichler is trying to hunt down Mert Utzel once again as they head into the Western Horseshoe. Doesn't quite close up under braking, and he's got that's Paulo Martins right behind him trying to hunt him down, and that green and black car. He's got an HPD coming up on the inside as they head back onto the braking, so that's going to hold him up. And now, Dusty, that's something that we haven't... Whoa, and we got a spinner. That is... Who is that? That is Mert Utzel, who lost it on turn 6 coming out into the oval. That lost him a bunch of places. He's lost contact, and so he has got a lot of work to do to try and get that up, and it looks like he might lose another spot to Derek Waller. But what I was going to say was the give and take of multi-class racing. Tell us a little bit about that, Dusty.
Well, Actually, I'm going to hold off on that one quick. I was talking about Paulo trying to make a lot of moves.
Yeah,
Not sure if that was him. Actually, that was Bjorn.
Yeah,
Another
it looks like Flatmark lost it into the bus stop. I wonder if we can get a replay of that, see what exactly went on. Yes, we're pulling it up now. Coming into the bus stop, he's pulling up behind Omar Zanchi and just taps the back from Omar, holds on to it, but poor Bjorn is left himself sideways across the track. Thankfully, there was nobody coming at that point, so he got very lucky that he had a gap right at the point he did. Otherwise, he would have been right in the firing line.
Yeah, it looked like he didn't expect. Looked like he didn't expect Omar to brake that early, or he got distracted and kind of missed his braking point and dodged to the side there a little bit to try to avoid doing too much damage to Omar.
Spinner in C1 class, the leader, Andre Martin, spun coming out of the bus stop, and he's lost the position now to Kevin O'Keefe. He's going to be set back very, very badly by that spin.
That was in C2. We apologize about that. And yeah, it looks like the bus stop seems to be the place to be if you want to go and watch some action on the track. Wow, that was actually quite a good save from what I'm seeing of that replay there, Richard.
Yes, indeed. He was going so well. There's been a lot of lead changes between the top two, which was Kevin O'Keefe and Andre Martins over the period of time that we've been covering. We've also had Stefan Overgaard chasing hard, and he had a bobble, and he was overtaken by the fourth place guy at the time, which was Ruben Velasco. Now the order's changed completely. Kevin has regained the lead. Ruben is second. Stefan Overgaard in third, and in fourth place we have Andre Martins. A lot of work to do for him right now.
And to touch back on the point that we were talking about earlier, Dusty, with that multi-class, I mean, how is that? What are all the things that these guys have to pay attention to?
A lot. You can't just run the race next to the cars beside you that are running the same pace. And it's different for every class. Most of my experience is multi-class tends to be in the slower car of the pack. You've just got to keep a real close eye on your rear view mirrors, and you got to pick your battles. You might be in a great place to pass somebody, but if you've got a car coming up, you know, with a speed difference of 60 miles an hour coming up behind you, and you think he's going to try to make the pass, I don't know. You got to decide. Do I try to jump out and maybe have him in, in my back bumper, or just hold off? But sometimes it can work to your advantage too. If the guy in front gets, has to go too wide with a faster car, that's going to slow him down and allow you to close that gap.
And we have a pass going on for the lead in the C2 class. Once again, Kevin O'Keefe was getting run down by Ruben Velasco, and I think there was a bit of touch into turn one there as Ruben Velasco takes the overall lead, Richard.
Absolutely, Joe. That was a great move from him. Once again, the draft played a very important part there. Now they're all bunched up at the moment. We have Stefan Overgaard trying to take advantage of that and trying to make a move on Kevin. Unsuccessfully though, as they go now into the Western Horseshoe. They really bunched up these top three. The fourth place is starting to catch up. Andre Martins is doing a great job in catching back up to these guys. So as they get onto the banking now, we can see that there's very little difference between the three top cars, with Ruben Velasco, the big mover in the field. So now they go around the banking and they head off towards the bus stop. Let's see what happens there. But some really good racing from these guys, Joe.
Yes, Stefan Overgaard, the flying Smurf in that blue and white car, is doing quite well to be up into third. He's doing much better than we saw from him at Suzuka.
And Ruben Velasco missed the bus stop completely, went straight through. He will get a slowdown penalty there for sure. And he will have to slow down significantly, allowing Kevin O'Keefe as well as Stefan Overgaard to pass him. He's starting to get back up to speed again. Andre Martins bearing down on him as well in fourth place. That was unbelievable, Joe. He just went straight through, didn't even attempt to take the bus stop.
And we see that sometimes, that it's better not to try and run it through the grass there and lose the car. Just bite the bullet and take that slowdown penalty. And I'm getting also word that C1 is getting some battles too. Kevin, what's going on with Vaz and Garis?
Yeah, this battle has been brewing up slowly, and it's starting to get on. Joao Vaz and Dennis Greaves fighting for third place overall. It's about 0.4 of a second live on track as they clear NASCAR Turn 4 and enter the Tri-Oval. But these two are actually side by side through the Western Horseshoe and on the chute between Turn 6. They are ready to go. Denny looking very fast. Joao Vaz was actually right on the bumper Iker Stefania and had to drop because of traffic. Now he's trying to close up, and you can see Iker's just now entering the Western International Horseshoe. These guys are going at it. This battle's moving back and forth because of traffic. This is a lot of fun to watch right now, Joe.
Yeah, and as we watch this battle develop, we keep mentioning that slowdown penalty. And for those not familiar with iRacing and sim racing, what exactly is that, Kevin?
Well, iRacing has very strict limits on the boundaries of the track, where you're allowed to drive, where you're not allowed to drive, and you can't go off that without incurring a safety penalty. But for some corners, like the bus stop, if you cut too much of the track, if you go more than half your car off the edge of the track, they'll automatically issue a slowdown penalty, a black flag, and you have to slow your car down about 2 seconds worth. That's kind of equivalent to making sure you don't gain any real-life positions. So it's a tough penalty, and it can be really brutal at a spot like the bus stop here at Daytona.
And sometimes that can even pay off if you're a car that's trying to chase down the guy in front of you, and you can't quite find the pace to run him down. You'll see, as we see Brian Herring going slow on the apron for some reason, not exactly sure what's going on, that if you just focus on hitting your marks, making sure you don't make mistakes into the corners, sometimes that guy that's pushing the pace is gonna incur that penalty, and you'll find an easy pass as you exit a corner. It looks like, unfortunately, this battle has slowed up a bit between these top guys, and that's for second, third, and fourth that we've been watching in the C1 class. So let's hop back into one of the other ones. I know that we had a lot of stuff going on in C3 for a while there. Dusty, has things picked up, or have they spread out?
A little of both. We've got a couple tight packs. We've got a good battle for the lead between teammates Tom Valentini, Andreas Almensberger, and also the challenger Joao Cardozo. It looks like Tom Valentini is not going to be able to run away with this one. There's a good pack staying up there right during the front. Then if you look back a bit, see if this battle is still running. We had a lot of challenges. We had some positions get swapped around between this group here: Mike Sargent, Cedric Finzak, and Omar Zanchi. These guys are running in a tight pack too. They're coming into turn 1 right now. I've seen a lot of good action in there coming into turn 1. Like I said, the MP4s are beautiful under braking right now, so that turn 1 is making for a lot of great action.
Yeah, and Omar is currently sitting in the 8th spot that we're seeing as he's trying to chase down Finzak, and he's also got Mike Sargent close up in front of him in 6th. So these guys about mid-pack. Omar doing not quite as well as we saw from the round at Suzuka, the qualifying round. For those of you who did not see that race, even though this is the first race of the season, they had a qualifying round to try to enter into the series. And now that's significant because you're going to see some drivers who have numbers like 900 and above, which might seem unusual for those used to two-digit cars. The reason for that in this series, if you see a 900 car, it means that they are not a regular member. So they are basically on probation. Those drivers are trying to work their way into the series. They have to prove that they are a clean driver. If they get anything like a black flag, then they are probably not going to be allowed in, or just essentially told, you're not going to get any more chances after that one. So keep an eye on those drivers. They've got a lot to worry about besides just finishing well. They need to prove themselves to be good enough to race in this series. These guys that run it, Mario and Mark, are very strict about making sure you are the cleanest and best drivers around, because they uphold this thing to the highest of qualities, Dusty.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're really starting to see that as people get used to driving with these other classes on the track. It's the cars keep changing in iRacing, but the drivers have to keep up. And so far, we've got a really great race here in C3. We have 5 cars currently competing, within a very short sprint, basically competing for the lead.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, these top five here all together, essentially all within, I would say, about 2 seconds from what it looks like of each other, which is pretty close for 5 cars, even on a place like Daytona. I noticed that Paulo Martin's behind this whole pack. He's fairly close, but he's not making anything too crazy at the moment. And that's an interesting position to be in when you're at the tail of a long line, because you don't have to worry about just trying to make a pass. You kind of have to keep an eye on any action that might go on up front, because an opportunity might arise if chaos goes down, or you might have to avoid a wreck or something.
Yeah, well, and another thing that I gotta wonder if it's going through my mind, he's looking in front of him at 4 cars, and he's seeing a lot of blue right now. 3 of those 4 cars are teammates, the Pure Racing team, and these guys are pretty close. If you saw at the end of the qualifier last race, even after the race, these guys did a 3-wide parade lap, you know, to show off their camaraderie and their paint jobs and everything like that. These guys definitely work a lot together. So if he's going to move up through this pack, you know, all the racers are definitely going for the win individually, but these guys are going to cooperate too. So, you know, I don't think that anybody's going to do anything shady, but he's definitely got to believe that these guys are working together.
Well, I hate to jump around, but I'm hearing that we've got some action going on in C1 class, and I'm looking at João Vaz right now, Kevin.
Yep, João Vaz and Denny Grease are looking side by side through the NASCAR turns 3 and 4. This battle's on. They were right behind Iker Estefania, but they got held up between before turn 6 by McLaren, and that has allowed Denny Grease to attack, and he is trying to do that on the outside, but doesn't look like he's gotten enough. He's tucking back in on the draft of Vaz. He looks like he's going to make a run into turn 1, but there's a Corvette up there. Is that a smart time to do it? Looks like Vaz has gone very deep, hit a bunch of cones. They're both still on the track, though, Joe.
I think there was a bit of contact between the two of them, actually. It looked like Garis just tapped the back of Vaz, but amazingly they both held on to it. I'm not sure if there was any damage incurred on the front of that HPD, though.
Yeah, I can't tell, to be honest. If there's damage, it looks like it's going to be pretty slight. They both seem to be doing okay so far, so we'll just have to monitor that and see if that really is affecting their races.
And meanwhile, behind them, it looks like Anthony Kopech has taken advantage of that action going on, and he's caught up to both of these guys, trying to make it a 3-way battle for the final spot on the podium.
Yeah, actually, you know, this battle for second, and sounds like there's a the McLaren in turn 6 has spun, but this battle between Iker Estefania, João Vaz, Denny Grease, and Anthony Kopech has been going on most of the race. It's just it kind of changes around depending on who gets caught by traffic, who doesn't. Looks like Denny Grease going to make an attack. João Vaz very, very slow on the banking. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe that is damage showing.
Yeah, we'll have to kind of keep an eye on, see what the pace of these guys play out as the laps go on and make their way through. Wow, João Vaz got way loose on the exit of the bus stop, and he's still trying to hold on to that car, and Anthony Kopech is just going to breeze on by around the outside.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's any damage on the back of João Vaz's car. Oh, it looks like maybe there's actually some damage on his wing. I'm trying to find that right now, Joe.
And I'm hearing that we've actually got action in C2. Richard, what's going on?
Well, guys, you've got to put the cameras on these top 4 guys. They have been battling absolutely fiercely. Kevin O'Keefe had a bobble and lost first place. He's now in 3rd place. Our leader at this point in time is Stefan Overgaard. He had a bobble. He was overtaken by Ruben Velasco and then got it back. They went 3 wide around the banking, and coming into turn 1 on the last lap, these guys are battling absolutely fiercely. It is hugely competitive, and it is fantastic to watch, Joe.
Well, I see the Flying Smurf is currently in the lead, so Stefan Overgaard definitely making progress as this race progresses. I guess maybe he was just getting over his teething problems at the qualifying round, because right now he is looking incredibly strong, and actually, let's see, he qualified 3rd, so that's 2 positions made up for him at this point. Although it may change, as we said, that draft seems to make things a little bit in flux for all the classes around here. Velasco is closing up on him as they go through the bus stop here. Velasco, Richard, was one of those guys that was up at the front that we saw at the round at Suzuka. So I expect he's going to be a mainstay up at the front from what we're seeing.
Look, these guys, if we've been watching them a couple of laps ago, you'd have seen them go 3 wide around the banking. Andre Martin's got a bit of a slowdown there. He cut the course pretty badly. So he's dropping back, and we also saw the HPDs. Troy Schultz was passing those 3 leaders of the C2 class at the time when they were battling at their hardest. It was incredible to watch, as we see now that the other C1 class leaders are coming through. There you see, wow, you saw Kevin O'Keefe out on the grass there. It's all mixed up now between the C1 and C2 class. So at this point, it's very interesting to see what's going to happen, because if any dramas are going to take place, it's going to be over the next few turns. Look at them all together there, Joe.
Yeah, and we've got all 3 classes in one corner. Look at that. It is a traffic jam through there. O'Keefe and Velasco both had trouble with the C3 class heading through there. In fact, there was almost contact with Velasco. And now they head on to the oval portion. So hopefully this will spread these guys out some, but it was chaos for a moment there, Richard.
Well, absolutely. And what you'll notice, Joe, is look around the banking. The HPDs don't get away that easily from these cars on the banking. In fact, the C1 class Corvette is actually slightly faster if they put the power down in a straight line than the HPD. But the HPD is so good through the corners, and with the bus stop there breaking up the oval section, it is they have to give way to these guys. Watch now as Stefan Overgaard is being overtaken by Anthony Kopek, and you'll see the speed differential as they go down into turn 1. But it's still a traffic jam, Joe. Look at it.
Yeah, in fact, Velasco, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And Joe, this battle back on in HPDs, that was Denny Grease getting by Kopek there with traffic, and that was all set up because Kopek had to slow down in the bus stop and allow those Corvettes to get through there by them, get through past, and Grease didn't have to, and Grease is going to try and make it 3 wide into the Western Horseshoe, and there's a Corvette sliding into the hairpin. What's going on there?
That is the leader. That is Velasco, and C2 has spun it in the International Horseshoe. I'm trying to see if he can get it going here. In fact,
yes,
he's still turning the car around. We're getting a replay right now, it sounds like. Let's see what exactly happened. I was watching the same thing you were, Kevin, and it was driver error, it looks like. Just spun it by himself, although there was an HPD, the Iker Estefania, second place car, and C1 was also off, although he did not spin, and he got it back on the track. So, whew, a lot of stuff going on in the International Horseshoe.
Yeah, in the midst of all that, we've got just a constant 3- and 4-way battle here between Mert Uzel, Mike Sargent, and Omar Zanchi, and Derek Waller's dropped back a little bit, but these guys are constantly making move. There was a little bit of contact going up into the horseshoe last lap around. We'll see if they continue this sort of thing. I mean, everybody got through clean, but these guys are pushing hard, which may not work to their advantage overall. The top 5 drivers in the C3 class, if you'll notice, they're in the same order that they've been for about 3 or 4 laps, whereas these guys are fighting hard, and that's allowing the guys in the front to separate a little bit.
And Dusty, I'll tell you who's not in the same order, and that's the entire HPD field. It's moving around so quickly, it's hard to keep track of. But big mover right now is Lars Conrad. He's sitting in 3rd place. He was in 6th just a half a lap ago. He's moving well thanks to traffic.
And Lars was sort of a back marker last round, so maybe he's kind of learning his lesson that slow but steady wins this race, as he is able to move up from everyone else's mistakes. He comes upon the C2 leader right now, that is Stefan Overgaard, getting ready to try and overtake him through this infield portion. So Lars Conrad on the move, as you said. Dennis Garis is a little ways up ahead of him, and then meanwhile, Troy Schultz, he is repeating what we saw last time 2 weeks ago, and absolutely trouncing the field with what looks to be a 20-second lead already, and we are a half an hour. We are barely a quarter into this thing.
Yeah, and Joe, most of that lead has come about because the rest of the HPD field has been fighting in traffic. Troy Schultz was sitting by himself. He was able to clear traffic pretty well, and all the HPDs have been fighting amongst themselves as once again there's a battle going on. Iker Estefania, Anthony Kopek, Joao Vaz, and Vaz has some damage on that front end of his wing, as we were talking about earlier. It's really affecting his top end speed. Anthony Kopek just blew past him through the tri-oval last time, and Vaz almost got rear-ended by a Corvette. He's struggling so much with front end grip right now.
Yeah, I keep wanting to call out the top 5 in each class, but everything keeps shifting around, so I'm not sure if it's wise to try and call it right now, because the next thing we know, it's going to be wrong. Vaz sitting in 6th right now, and 9 cars started in the HPD class, so he is struggling today, and we saw that. I know we talked a little bit about it before the race, that he seems to lack the multi-class experience that some of these other guys do, Kevin.
Yeah, that was his big hang-up last round at Suzuka. He just wasn't able to deal with the traffic very well, and kind of got some black flags for it. And today he was running real quick. Was showing some good pace, but that damage on his wing right now is causing him all kinds of problems right now. And I'm sure he's eager for his fuel to go out so he can make a pit stop and get a new front wing.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you kind of have to make a decision on as we see Vaz come upon Stefan Overgaard right now through the Western Horseshoe.
Position change. Looks like Kopech got around Iker Estefania into turn 1.
So Iker Estefania, that moves him up into the podium, I believe.
No, Estefania has moved down to 5th. Kopech's in 4th, Lars Conrad in 3rd, Denny Gurry in 2nd.
Sorry about that. So much to keep track of today. So Kopech doing fairly well here, like you said, up into 4th. But what I was saying was, with these cars that rely on these aerodynamics, especially on a roval like this course, you have to try and figure out, okay, how long am I going to be out until I have to pit next? Is it worth losing all that time, or does it make more sense to go and pit early, screw up my strategy, and try and get that damage fixed and run possibly some better laps?
I usually lean on the side, especially at a draft track like this, of getting your damage fixed right away, and I think Joao Vaz desperately needs to do that. He is getting dropped like he's a 12-ton anchor right now. He's just dead weight on the track. He needs to get in and get that nose fixed, and he'll be back up to speed in a heartbeat, but he's killing himself right now.
Speaking of pit stops, I see Paulo Martins in the C3 class has ducked into the pits. I'm not sure if that is a scheduled stop, but Dusty, one of the things that I want to talk about now that pit stops are going is that pit entry. This is something that I have to imagine a lot of the road racers are not quite used to, because you are coming in at a high speed, and now we've got Derek Waller also in the C3 in the pits. So, I would imagine that these guys should have been practicing their pit entry coming in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's that's one of those things that's really easy to forget to do when you're out there running hot laps, trying to get as fast as possible. But in a race like this, if you think about it, it's real easy to lose a few seconds just from a mediocre pit entry, and that can throw you halfway down the field sometimes.
And not only that, but even though it's mostly a straight shot into there, you can still lose it and spin the car out if you try and get it too late or just break it wrong into there. It's essentially another corner that you have to learn. That's why we say you have to practice it. You can't just come up to it for the very first time and think, I got this, and hit your brakes and hope you get it right. It looks like Derek and I'm trying to remember who the other car was that was in, have both exited. So I believe that was Martins that was in the pits with him. So those guys are in and have their pit stops done. And I do believe, if that is correct, it looks like we're going to be seeing 2 pit stops today. Is that right? What do you guys know on that front?
Yeah, Joe, I think you're right. I think 2 pit stops is going to be the call today.
So strategy is going to be a little bit mixed up, and hopefully we'll see some guys try to employ something different, although it is definitely fluctuating out on the course, so I don't think there's any fear of this being a boring race. And I hear that it looks like Almensberger blew through the pit stop, or through the bus stop at one point earlier on. And no, I'm hearing that it was Overgaard from our spotter, so he must have gotten a slowdown. I'm seeing that he's still in the lead, though, so he must have had a significant lead over Andre Martins, Richard.
Yeah, now what's happened is that the red car of Kevin O'Keefe a couple of laps back spun out in the international horseshoe, and he lost 2nd place. Stefan Overgaard may have had a bobble or 2, but he's been leading now for at least 5 or 6 laps, and he's doing a great job of leading this race at the moment. The 2nd place guy is now Andre Martins, who has been trying to catch Stefan valiantly, but not succeeding at this point in time. And the 3rd place is now currently being held down by a sort of pink and yellow car of Manuel Sanchez, who's quietly been doing his laps and doing a great job, and finds himself now in third place in the C2 class. Fourth place, Francesco Albert, another driver who's just been turning laps without doing anything dramatic. These guys are doing a great job of just hanging in there. But our leader is definitely Stefan Overgaard, Joe.
Well, while we watch Stefan lead around the track, and I hear that our C3 leader is actually pitting as well, and that would be Patrick Pitchler, who has... that was someone else, actually. Sorry, go ahead, Dusty.
Oh, yeah, Pitchler is the current leader as he stayed out, but Tom Valentini has been the leader for the C3 class for the whole race. It looks like him and his teammate Andreas Almensberger have both pitted at the same time, though Tom is actually still in there. I'm not sure if he's taken some repairs or if just got a longer fill-up.
Well, we'll find out soon enough, but with all the pit stops going on, things are going to get a little bit crazy to try and figure out who's doing what. And with battles not happening too much, we are going to head to break for just a moment. Excuse me. Let the pit stops play themselves out. We're going to show you some commercials, play some music. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway, where we are still watching the 120 minutes of Daytona with the EnduroPro Series Round 1. You're currently watching Paulo Martins lead the C3 class in the McLarens. He's got João Cardoso hot on his tail, though. Pit stops are just finishing out at the moment. Real quick, if you want to get a hold of us or find out more about this series, don't forget to check out Facebook with EnduroPro Series, or their Twitter at EnduroPro Series. Or if you have a question for us here in the booth, tweet us at GSR Channel. We will try to check it and answer any questions anybody has. But a lot has been happening. There have been a few offs while we were away. Dennis Garice went off at the hairpin at one point. We had, I believe, Ruben Velasco had to get a tow because he had a run-in with the pit exit wall on turn 1. So his car was heavily damaged, and I believe he's probably still in the pit at the moment. So a lot going on right now, Dusty.
Yeah, definitely. Things got spread out a bit once things got into the pit. Paulo Martins managed to capitalize on that. He must have had a really good pit because he is now hanging out in front with a number of seconds between him and João Cardoso, who I believe... I'm sorry, my replay was back a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. Like, we've got a few battles forming back up. After, if you look right now, Cedric Finzak and Mike Sargent are having a battle out here on the oval. They're going too wide.
Sargent on the inside there, and it looks like he's going to have the optimal line coming to the bus stop, but he's got to... Oh, I'm sorry, they're coming to the start-finish line. I was looking at that wrong. But still, he's got the optimal line coming into the first corner here, as you see Finzak go very wide and pretty much gives up the position as they settle up towards the International Horseshoe. He's going to have another good chance. In fact, he's got a decent run, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like that wide line coming into that turn 1 does allow you to get a good launch into this next section of the course, but it's really twisty, kind of hard to make passes in here. So I think he's probably just going to hold, see if he can get a good launch back onto the oval and pass him there.
We are seeing what it's like on board with Finzak as he tries to chase down Sargent coming through the Western Horseshoe. Now we're going to exit up onto the oval, and you'll get a feel for what it's like up on this huge banking on these corners. It is basically like a wall if you look at it. I remember while we were there with one of my friends looking at it, just commented how pictures and television really do not do this banking justice. It is just hugely tall and incredibly steep. He's dropped off a bit as they get spread out on the oval, but we'll see how he does coming up into the banking here, closing in as they get on the braking for the bus stop, and closes right in onto the bumper. Now he's really got to hold on and try to utilize that draft, Dusty.
Yeah, and that bus stop is so important. The entry versus exit speeds. It's a really tough balance. If he managed to get on the gas a little bit earlier than the other guy coming out of that bus stop, he's got a little extra speed coming out, and then combined with the draft, he might be able to get in here. But I believe that Mike Sargent isn't going to give up that lower line, which is definitely an optimal line. Yeah, you see here Cedric Finzak going high to try to get around him, but he's not going to have the time. He's going to have to come in behind him.
And I'm also hearing that we had another accident happen in the C1 class. Lars Conrad is having a bit of a bad day, it sounds like, Kevin.
Yeah, he served his pit stop, got a full tank of fuel, fresh tires, and on the tricky pit exit here, he smacked the wall, bent up his rear end, and now he's just got to wait until the next pit stop, I guess, to fix that up. That's really unfortunate. He's going to struggle a little bit with grip for that. And,
I have to admit, Kevin, that pit exit is a bit tricky, a bit scary, especially in more powerful cars. And I have to imagine with the HPD, that seems like a very wide car, and that pit exit is basically like a single lane.
Yeah, there is no room for error in the HPD when you're exiting pit lane. And I just want to point something out, Joe. João Vez apparently did not fix the damage on his car, which doesn't make any sense to me. He's dealing with a lot of damage all up on the left side of his car, and it's really slowing him down. And it sounds like there's a penalty for Nilton Carvalho.
Well, we'll have our spotter check to see what exactly happened there, what caused that penalty. In the meantime, I'm getting word that we got a battle going on between Manuel Sanchez and Francisco Esteve Albert, and that is in C2.
That is correct, Joe, and the battle is definitely on. And just as we speak, Sanchez has an off in the International Horseshoe and loses a lot of time right there to Albert. So it was a great battle. Albert was behind at one point in the previous lap and managed to pull up to Sanchez using the draft, overtook him going into turn 1. And now it looks like Sanchez has got a lot of work to do. In the meantime, Stefan Overgaard has absolutely checked out from his team, his mates in the C1 class, and he's leading this race and leading it well as we speak right now. C2 class, sorry.
It's okay. Just an update on that penalty. Carvalho did get a black flag. He's got to stop and go for running into the back of Garis. So that is what caused that, and that's going to just make his day go from bad to worse. But, Richard, I'm going to blame you for that off for Sanchez, because that's a commentator's curse.
Yes, absolutely. We just put the cameras on him. Very colorful car that he's got as well, with that pink and white checkered rear end. But he's been doing a great job, and Francesco Albert as well. These guys have quietly been going around their business. Andre Martins is in 4th place. I do want to mention Kevin O'Keefe, who sat in the pits for something like 5 laps having repairs of damage, and he's fallen way back. Ruben Velasco as well had damage from an off that he had or contact, and these two guys who were leading early on are now well down on the rest of the C2 field. So still a long race to go, Joe. We'll see how it all pans out a little while later.
Now, with the contact that was made with Garis, and I think it was that he got into the back of Garis, Kevin, I'm wondering for Dennis, is the track going to get a little bit more Garisy now?
I warned you not to go there. Well, it kind of looks like it. I think he's got a little bit of damage on the rear of the car, so he might be struggling for some rear-end grip. Might be getting a little more oversteer than he wants now.
Well, I actually got a pretty good look at that. What was happening was Garis was coming in. He was passing Carvalho on the inside, and Carvalho initially gave him the inside line, but I don't know if he didn't realize that he was there. He turned into him. He actually hit him on the left side. So if you look down, the whole left side of Garis's car has got some damage. He might have actually got in on the wheels there, maybe giving him a little bit of actual suspension damage.
And speaking of the suspension damage, Kevin, I know the aero is a little bit sensitive. Obviously, you don't want to mess up the bodywork on this car. How sturdy is the sidewalls of these cars? I mean, is it pretty easy to bork up the suspension, or can you be pretty rough with it?
Well, the only thing I can say to that is I've never had light contact in the HPD. All my contacts have been heavy hits, so I can't really speak too well about that. You know, I don't think there's a lot of room to give in this car, though. It seems like any kind of touch you do is really going to affect your race.
And Dennis is currently holding down the 5th position in the C1 class and overall, so he has got quite a bit to lose. Well, not too much to lose, though, I guess, because we've had a lot of guys drop out. I see Mark Muckley is all the way down in 14th overall and currently holding on to what looks like 7th in that class. Ramon Saez is 9 laps down. He looks to be out of the race. Anton Volodin, who we mentioned earlier, is out as well. So we are essentially down to what looks like 7 cars in that C1 class.
Yeah, it's a little grim. We should say Mark Mucky, he served a pit stop on, I think it was lap 2 or lap 3, a very long pit stop. It kind of looks like his crew forgot to fill his fuel tank up for the start of the race. And so he's been just kind of steadily working his way back through the field. So he should, you know, as long as he keeps it clean, get back onto the group with his C1s. But outside of that, the C1 carnage has been slim at best.
Always good to hear. As we said, there's a lot of kind of almost seemingly wild dives that these cars have to make. It's just an unfortunate nature of them, and trying and make progress through some of these classes that are faster on the straightaway. But I'm getting word that Andre Martins is starting to catch Sanchez, so why don't we hop over to that?
Well, guys, the battle is on here. Sanchez and Martins. Sanchez still just ahead of Martins as they go through turn 1, but Martins has been catching him hand over fist, and he's right on his bumper as we speak. So we watched this for a little while as they go through the International Horseshoe. I'm pretty sure that Andre Martins has better speed at the moment than Andre Sanchez, and it won't be too long before he passes him. But Sanchez still holding on to that spot at the moment, which is third place for Sanchez, but Martins looking to take that place away from him as they go now back onto the banking, and I think this is where you'll see the move take place, guys.
Yeah, all he's got to do is get a good exit here. Let's see how he does. He keeps it very nice and tight on the inside. A very good exit. In fact, he's definitely going to have that draft coming around the banking, Richard. So this could be a bit tricky, though, because they might be side by side into that infamous bus stop.
Well, guys, they are side by side as we speak. They're approaching the bus stop. Martins pulled slightly ahead, and I think Manuel Sanchez did the wise thing, backed it down just a little bit and allows Martins to take over third place.
And Joe, there was a scary moment a minute ago in the Western Horseshoe where I think it was Sean O'Hara in the C2 Corvette spun in front of Iker Estefania and Lars Conrad and just barely avoided taking both of them out. So that was a close battle as these guys are, once again in their draft and fighting it out through traffic.
Whew, yeah, I just went back and watched that real quick, and they had all but a car's width on the inside of that corner there just to sneak by. So great driving on both of them to just stay heads up and take advantage of the one opportunity that they had to get through there.
And you see Lars Conrad making a move on the outside of turn 1. Looks very good under braking. Might be able to do it. No, Iker Estefania's got the better grip on the inside line. Estefania leads through the S's.
Well, this is a much better showing than what we saw at Suzuka for Lars Conrad to be fighting with Estefania. I'm wondering if that damage that he had for most of Suzuka, and you can see him get a good run out of the International Horseshoe now as they're heading towards the kink. He backs out of it just a bit. Let's see if he tries anything into the Western Horseshoe.
Doesn't look like it. Estefania just absolutely getting huge amounts of understeer through these two horseshoes. I don't know if he's pushing too hard or what's going on, but that does not look right. And Conrad is just looking like he is ready to pounce any second.
We've had a little bit of contact going into turn 1. We've had a battle here between Mike Sargent and Andreas Allemansberger. It's been about 2 or 3 laps in a row that Allemansberger's tried to make a pass on the outside on turn 1, and this time he actually made it stick. He got by him on turn entry, and Mike Sargent just tapped him a little bit as he was trying to come back down toward the apex. But he's got pats. Looked like both of them were clean. Hopefully Mike Sargent didn't get too much damage there.
Yeah, it looked awful close. I can't tell if they actually did touch or if it was just a glance. But yeah, great job from Allemansberger to make that happen. I thought I heard someone start to say something. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying that outside pass on turn 1 is actually quite tricky. Mike Sargent and Cedric Finzak earlier were having a very similar battle, and Finzak tried to make the pass on the outside, got his car loose and spun it around. Same thing again. Earlier happened with Derek Waller. Derek Waller was further up in the pack again, fighting with I believe Mert Uzel, and they had a really close battle. Tried to make the pass on the outside, got the car loose, spun it, dropped back in the pack. So it's good to see somebody finally make that stick.
Yeah, and even though you can make it happen on the outside, one of the things that I've found over the years, when you try and do that, you have to be very careful about giving the inside car room, because it's so easy to lose it under braking. And I imagine with the way you said that these cars can be a little hairy now, the MP4s, that you have to kind of watch out and just make sure that they've got control on the inside, and just be aware of what they're doing, because if they lose control and you're on the outside, there's only one way for them to go.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You've got to keep your turn rates in line. You've got to ease it over. These guys are all running fast configs. These guys are looking to win. They're probably running pretty loose under braking, and that gives you generally better braking performance overall. But if you're coming in late, you're trying to make a pass, coming in a bit hot, it's really tempting to start turning the wheel before you've got back up on your brakes enough, and the car will just come right around on you.
Well, as I look through the field, I see that we've got another battle going on in your class, Dusty, between Mert Utzel and Bjorn Fladmark, and that is currently for the 8th and 9th position between these guys. Bjorn is trying to hunt him down as they break for turn 6, coming back onto the banking. Let's see if he can close up enough to get that draft.
Yeah, that exit onto the banking is really tough on these cars. I mentioned they're very stiff right now, and they're not so good on the bumps. You'll see when they come around that corner, they just bounce around almost like a golf cart, it seems like. But when they come out here, the draft plays such a huge deal. We'll see if he can make it. He'll probably make his move after the butt stop.
And it sounds like Bjorn is struggling just a bit, actually. He got overtaken by Mert a little bit before that we didn't see on camera. So it looks like he's actually trying to get the position back. And I'm wondering if that might be that maybe he's got a little less downforce than Mert, and that maybe that's why he's struggling a bit here. But he's definitely closing up under the draft. Look at him go all the way up to side-by-side.
Yep. Yep, Mert is not going to give up that inside line, so once again, about the only way you can make it happen here is on the outside, so see if he can hold on. Oh, and he cuts in and gets right into Mert.
Yeah, there was definite contact. He just got tipped. Let's see if we can get a replay of that and watch that again real quick. As they come into turn 1, yeah, I have to put that on Bjorn a little bit. I have to say, as he cut down there, he really needed to just give a little bit more room and be aware of where exactly Uzzel was. But at least he didn't hit anything. He's got the car going, so lives to fight another day.
Yeah, it was a really light touch. All I can imagine there is that he was maybe listening, trusting his spotter a little bit too much, heard the spotter utter that, clear on the inside thing, and just came right down in to try to take that inside line from him, but it was just too soon.
Give and take. Always give and take. We are back live now, and you're watching Fladmark go around the banking, but let's hop over to another battle. We've been talking about these C3 guys for a little while, and let's find out actually what's going on in C2, because we've had some very good action throughout the day on that one, Richard.
Yes, Joe. Just want to run through the standings at the moment. Stefan Overgaard is leading the C2 class. He is leading by something like 23 seconds at the moment, so a great lead over second place Andre Martins, who he's got that second place from Manuel Sanchez. Manuel Sanchez is not out of it he's in third place at the moment, but he can still see Andre Martins just ahead of him, so he's running in a very good third place at the moment, as you see Andre Martins in amongst traffic. Francesco Albert, who at one point was running in second place, is down to fourth place. He had a bobble. And in fifth place in this class, João Oliveira, and he's doing a great job just quietly doing his thing. We'll see where he shakes out once we go into the next round of pit stops. And just to round out the class, Joe, Sean O'Hara, who we haven't said much of, he is running in sixth place, and those are the only guys that are on the same lap. In fact, the last two are down a lap on the top four. So very quiet at the moment in this class.
So slim pickings over there, but right now let's hop back to C3 because we have a battle for the lead between Paulo Martins and João Cardoso, and looks like Cardoso backs out of it as they head to turn 1, Dusty.
Well, he actually got into him a little bit there. Looked like a little, speaking of the MP4's taking a little cue from the NASCAR guys, he gave Paulo a little bit of a bump draft there.
So I guess he is learning his lesson, and I got to give all credit to Martins because we saw at Suzuka that Cardoso was the class of the field, just absolutely scampered away with it, unbothered most of the time, and right now he's having to work for it hard, and Paulo Martins is running a fairly good race. Not many mistakes that I've seen so far. I'm going to try and find some wood to knock on. Don't want to curse the poor guy, but all credit to him right now.
Yeah, I think Paulo had a really good. I'm guessing he had a really fantastic pit stop. He got out after the pit stops cleared out. He got way out in front of the pack, and he's had some time to just run in clean air, clean traffic up there. But Cardoso here, he's not having any of that. He's just hustling right back up on the field, and I think he's going to get past him here. Maybe that'll cancel your curse.
Well, they've got some lap traffic. In fact, Mark Hewitt of the same class is up in the way, and that's going to slow up Martins. In fact, slow him up a lot, and Cardozo is right on the back of him. He's going to get a very good draft as they exit out of the bus stop here. I think if he's going to make something happen, this is going to be a really good chance. Troy Schultz, the leader of the C1 class, goes on around the outside of them, and now it's clear track for these two.
Yeah, the trick here is that at this point, Martins is also getting a draft, so Cardozo doesn't have the benefit of just being able to whip around him like that. So we'll see how the traffic works out here. Paulo's going to the outside. Both of them are going to the outside, and they've both decided to take that one clean and save the battle for another turn.
And I have to say, good on Mark Hewitt for trying to duck out of the way of those two with them battling for the lead. That is good driving from a back marker to be aware and just let them slip on by and not get in the way of them. Sometimes making friends on track can help you later down the line.
Absolutely, especially in multi-class racing, because in a single class race you might get kind of spread out early on and not come into contact too much with the other cars. But there's just so much traffic in multi-class racing. There's got to be so much cooperation between these drivers.
I want to stay on this battle between these two guys because this is for the lead in the C3 class, but I just want to make a quick mention that Lars Conrad just touched the wall on the turn 1 apex, that pit exit wall, so might have been some damage there. We'll get to that later, but let's hold on this battle because Cardozo is now closing up quick, but he lets off once again. Now, this is an interesting ploy here, Dusty. He's playing a very patient game, and drops a bit under braking, actually. He doesn't seem very eager to try and make a move happen. He's being extremely patient.
Not going into that pit stop. It's just so narrow. It's going to slow both of them down so much, and possibly wreck them out if he tries to make a stop, make a go in that pit stop. But it's a little bumpy. It's a little loose with these cars. It's just not the right place to do it. So he lets off. He enters into the bus stop really easy, so he can get a really great launch out of it. He can get on the gas as soon as possible and then maximize this draft right here, see if he can get around. He didn't quite have enough that time, so he backed off as opposed to trying to make the dangerous outside pass when you don't have just a ton of momentum.
So João Cardozo showing that he is an incredibly smart driver behind the wheel of that MP4 as he holds down second. We are over an hour in. We've got 50 minutes left in this race, so we are past the hump, and these guys are looking at the final stretch, the long final stretch of about 50 minutes left to go here. A little bit behind them, Tom Valentini. He's been a little bit anonymous. He's one of that set of cars that you mentioned that was all teammates. I think Patrick Pitchler is his teammate behind him. And he's nowhere near to try and challenge those two leaders, but running a fairly quiet race and doing very good to be on the podium at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, both of these guys are pretty strong showing. I think, at this point, these guys are probably not going to challenge each other too much. If it comes down to the end of the race and these guys are running neck and neck, and they, then you'll see them running into each other. But at this point, they got drafting partners, and that makes them faster.
Once again, a reminder, if you want to find out more about the EnduroPro series, or if you want to contact them or us, you can catch them at EnduroPro series on Twitter, and ourselves at GSR channel. And you can ask us questions. We'll try to answer them on air. We are listening and we are reading. So we've been watching these two guys in third and fourth in the C3 class. Not a lot going on right now between them. So Kevin, I know we mentioned that damage a little bit earlier for Lars Conrad. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh man, that was a fun battle to watch, except there was too much action going on in the McLaren lead there. But Iker Estefania and Lars Conrad were battling for third position in the C1. Iker was a little better on corner exit, and Lars was much better on corner entry, so these guys were having a nice little battle. And then Lars just trying to carry a bunch of speed into turn 1, bounced off the wall at the apex there. Heavy damage to the front of his car. He spent about a lap or two in pit lane. He's now a lap down in sixth place in C1.
unfortunate to hear for Lars. He was on a very good race for a while there, all the way up to third at one point, if I recall correctly. He's making his way around the Western Horseshoe and coming up to Nilton Carvalho, who's also run afoul of some problems with a black flag earlier. And I'm not going to try and curse us here, but we've only seen one black flag so far that I know of. This is a lot cleaner race than what we saw 2 weeks ago, guys.
Yeah, it's a whole lot easier to pass here, and definitely the law was laid down at Suzuka. The admins made it known that they were not going to look lightly on intra-class contact, and the drivers are respecting that now.
Which is excellent to see, and it just goes to show that you set the bar high, and drivers, especially of this caliber, are going to step up to the plate and meet that challenge. But we've got, let's actually find some action on the track. I know we've talked a little bit about some of the strategy and things going on, but let's give the viewers something good to look at. I'm trying to find something close down around there. And actually, speaking of not action on the track, but Paulo Martins, leader in the C3 class, he is in the pits right now.
Yeah, it looks like, finally we were talking about this is probably going to be a two-pit race. So I think he's just decided that, I mean, if you were watching Cardozo there earlier, his style is awesome. You were talking about him backing off, but before he backs off, he gets right up on his bumper. That means he was probably making Paulo pretty nervous. So, he figured, okay, Cardozo's probably going to make a move at some point. Let's just try to get my pit stop over as soon as possible and then get back out so I can start running by myself.
And I'm sorry, we got a bit of information on the pit stop there. I was distracted for a second. But João Cardozo significantly did not pit this time by, even though Martins did, as Martin exits right now. So this could mean a leapfrog, Dusty. And now, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to do a long run on these tires. I mean, is it a good thing to try and go long and see if he can build a gap here? Or are his tires going to be worn out and he'll actually be slower and it makes more sense to pit early? How do these tires work on these longer runs?
I haven't had a chance to do a real long run on these new tires yet, but I'm betting Cardozo is probably confident enough in his ability to get the car around the track, regardless of how the car is handling. I think what he's going to do is stay out as long as possible, which allows him to take as little fuel as possible on his final pit stop, which is going to make for a shorter pit stop, and that's going to be advantageous for him overall.
Absolutely. And we're also getting word that Patrick Pitchler is in a battle with Tom Valentini, and that is for the 4th and 5th position in C3 class as they come across the start-finish line. It looks like Valentini is trying to close up, and they come into the break into turn 1, but he's not near enough to make anything happen right now. But if he gets a good exit, as you can see him get within a car length around that apex, he could make something happen within a lap here.
Yeah, we'll see with these guys. They've been running, close together. They're probably, coming close to needing to pit again, as we see, with Paulo dumping in a little bit early. I'm kind of curious how far these guys are actually going to push it right now, considering their tires are pretty hot. At the other hand, they're also light on fuel load, so if that's making them feel a bit more confident, we could see some action.
Well, coming up towards turn 6, braking hard and then getting back on the power as they come to the banking. It looks like there's nothing lost, nothing gained between the two, just about holding position. As we said, they are teammates, so not sure if there's any team orders going on there, but hopefully they don't fight each other too hard. Don't want to have inter-team squabbles going on, although it makes for good television for us. Just dropping him, actually, it looks like Patrick has had a very good exit coming onto the banking. He's put a bit of a gap in there, Dusty.
Yeah, but he's coming up on lap traffic here. I believe that is, excuse me, give me a hand with the name there.
That's Carvalho, I believe. Nilton
right,
Carvalho?
Yeah, so yep, okay, so we're going to see how much of a difference that makes. See, right now, Valentini is going to be a little bit in the draft of Carvalho, and while Pitchler is out there on the outside running clean air. But yeah, I think these guys are definitely Definitely playing it cool right now.
Carvalho wasn't getting out. Okay, now he's backing off. I was getting a bit worried. Oh, but he actually gets in the way of Valentini coming into turn one just a little bit, but still manages to not lose too much there. Valentini holding on to his teammate Pichler. I'm sorry, excuse me. But yeah, for a while I was getting a little bit worried because I knew Carvalho had that black flag. I was hoping that he didn't have the red mist too much and that he was going to get out of the way of these two guys. Thankfully, he did. Let's see. It looks like we got a tweet from Evil Levi telling us that the race today is excellent. Great job, people. Thank you, Levi. We appreciate the compliments. If you have any questions, make sure and ask. But we also appreciate a job well done from people. We do a lot of hard work up in this booth to make this thing happen. But back to the action on the track. We're still watching Valentini try to hunt down Pichler, and that is currently for second and third, although we did have a pit stop from our leader before, and that was Paulo Martins, who was leading and completed his. João Cardoso was behind him, still has yet to make his pit stop, and so does Pichler and Valentini, as well as I believe Almensberger might have to make his stop still behind them. So things are a little bit confused. Obviously, guys are using different pit strategies, so things are going to be a little bit shaken up for a while until we figure out who winds up where.
Yeah, again, it's going to make a big difference, you know. Again, I don't know exactly how these tires behave when they're really warm, so, you know, I don't know if we're going to see some people maybe try to pit really late and not take tires just so they can have as fast of a pit stop as possible. Paulo, of course, Cardoso made the decision to pit early, so maybe he was hoping to get some fresh tires and some clean air and make up some tracks on his own just behind the wheel.
Absolutely. Well, I'm working my way through the field. I see Sean O'Hara has just pitted. He is exiting right now, and that is in the C2 class. There we go.
Oh, excuse me. Let me make sure everybody's on the same lap here. Oh, okay, that's Bjorn. I was getting him mixed up with Paul a little bit. The two green cars. Tom Valentini and Patrick Pichler have come up on the back of Bjorn Erik Fladmark. They're about to lap him. But yeah, look, we're going to see. Okay, no, he does let them by there going out onto the oval. So it's going to be back to driving with these guys.
Well, we haven't checked in on C2 in a while, Richard, but there really hasn't been a lot of action from what we've seen, although Stefan Overgaard is going around some traffic right now. He doesn't seem to have any threat from Andre Martins. There is a big gap back there.
Yes, that's true. Stefan has just been running a perfect race. Let me not say that too loudly in case I curse him once again. But at the moment, he has got a 22-second lead over Andre Martins. Manuel Sanchez still in third place at this point in time. They should be coming up to their second pit stop soon. At the moment, it's just too easy for Stefan at the just going through traffic, doing his thing at the moment. So let us hope that this carries to the end of the race. I just want to make mention, Joe, of the drivers in the class who have retired. So Ruben Velasco was one of the early challengers and in fact led, I believe, for a few laps. He's out of the race. Kevin O'Keefe, who was leading right at the beginning and doing a great job early on, he is now out of this race. Carlos Garcia, he's out. David De Roche is out as well, and Brian Herring is out. So a bunch of the C2 drivers out of the race, and only, in fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, only 6 of them left in the class. So a little bit of a non-event at this time, but we know from past experience, Joe, that anything can happen at any time, so we're not writing anybody off at this point.
Never. Whenever we think that something is sealed up, it seems like something goes down, we're completely proven wrong. With so many cars out of the C2 class, Richard, I'm curious to know what your thoughts on were the keys to this race. I know it's not over yet, but what do you think has allowed some of these cars like Overgaard and Martins to get so far up into the lead, and what's made the difference in C2?
You know, Joe, I think the difference is how you handle yourself in traffic. it's very important during the time when we saw the C1 class coming through the C2s that these drivers kept their head squarely on their shoulders and didn't try to race the faster class, although they could have, because in parts of this track you will find that the C2 car is faster. And I really think that's the key. You have to keep your head in any sort of multi-class racing, particularly when a faster car is coming by you, and when you are going, even more importantly, when you are going past the slower class. That is most definitely, for me, the key to the race.
So it sounds like you just kind of need your head on a swivel if you're driving one of these Corvettes, because you got both cars coming and going. So, unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot of action going on with these guys, so we're going to leave that for just a little while and talk to Kevin a little bit about the top 5 and the C1 class. And also, I want to hear the same thing, Kevin. What's made the difference up there?
The difference in the C1 field has been Troy Schultz and his speed. He has just dominated the field. He's got a 56-second gap to second place right now, and the speed that he had allowed him to take a big early lead on the field, and that allowed him to play a lot more easy with traffic, and the traffic was the difference between the rest of the field. And you know, so Troy's just been having a master class out there that he's put on. Anthony Kopech, you know, he qualified second, dropped pretty far back early on, but he's kept his car clean. He's back up into second. Iker Estefania is in third. He's about 11 seconds behind Anthony Kopech, and his car's a little worse for the wear, could be better. Denny Guri, he's had an okay run. He's about 42 seconds behind Iker in fourth, and Joao Vaz, we saw that he had that damage on the front of his car early, and that's put him a lap down. He's about 21 seconds behind Denny, and then Lars Conrad is in sixth in the C1 field. He just stopped in pit lane again and negotiates pit lane exit a little better this time.
I'm getting word that Stefan Overgaard has ducked into the pits, so our C2 leader is now into the pits and is handing over the lead to Andre Martins, who has yet to take his stop, I believe. But so things are starting to shuffle out. There's a huge variety in pit stops here because João Cardojo, and as I say that, leader in C3 has just pitted and he's exiting right now, Dusty.
Yeah, you were talking about the things that are making the difference with these classes. You know, we saw at the very beginning of the race, these, you know, the top sort of 5 guys were running real close in times. They're sticking together in a tight pack. I think with the C3 class, what's going to be the big difference with this race is pit strategy. We're seeing a bunch of these different cars doing a lot of different things. You know, João Cardojo obviously waited as long as he possibly could to get that last pit stop off. And we're going to see if that makes a difference, if he can get back out ahead of these guys.
In fact, significantly, he is ahead of Paulo Martins, who was leading him before those two both pitted. So, effectively, João Cardojo has bought himself the lead, although I believe he won't be in the overall lead at the moment, unless, has Pitchler and Valentini pitted? I didn't see.
They both have, actually, and on separate laps even.
And they're still together, it looks like. So yeah, I guess João Cardojo is, in fact, in the lead in the C3 class. Excellent strategic move from him. Like you said, that seems to be the key around here for him to move himself up into first, that P1 position. So Paulo Martins now has work to do. He is a little too far back to get that draft. So if you were in Paulo's position, Dusty, I mean, what would you do? You've got no pit stops left. You've got a guy who's obviously got good pace. How do you get up there?
Oh, man, I mean, at this point in the race, that's really tough. You know, Cardojo might have fresh tires, you know, probably going to have about the same amount of fuel at this point. Really, Paulo just needs to buckle down and hit his marks. He's got to focus right now on hitting those marks. He's got to hit the brake points right. He's got to get on the throttle at the right point. He's just got to drive fast. And unless, you know, I mean, there's a lot of variability with the traffic going around the track, but that's not something you can count on. You know, the best thing he can do is just try to position himself well so that whenever one of those other C1 or C2 cars, you know, comes past, you know, he comes out ahead of the situation, and then just hope that Cardojo's ability to navigate the traffic is not quite as good.
Well, let's go back to Cedric Finzak. In fact, he's spinning right now. I'm sorry, no, that's Mike Sargent spinning. They had some action going on into the bus stop, and now poor Sargent has got to wait for cars to go past. We're going to see a replay of that. I was kind of watching it unfold as you were talking, Dusty. They were side by side heading up into the bus stop. As you can see, poor Sargent was on the outside heading in, and just a little bit, I'm not sure if they touched or not, but he lost it, and kudos to Finzak because he just got that car stopped in time, less than a foot between them it looked like, and managed to come out with the spot.
Yeah, and you were talking earlier, about Cardozo, wondering why he was lifting off, before going into the bus stop, and that's why. Oh yeah, look at that. He turned in a little too soon, and he didn't quite have the spot. Might have even been a little bit of contact there.
Yeah. And Richard, we've seen that in pretty much all three classes, it seems like. And I have to admit, when I was at Daytona a week ago, that was true in real life as well, that the bus stop was the trouble spot of the race. It is just incredibly difficult. But what about it is that keeps throwing these drivers off?
Well, the bus stop is a tricky corner. There's no, it's you have to go left. I have done a lot of laps at Daytona, and the entry to the bus stop is critical. If you go in too wide off the left-hand side of the bus stop, whereas you're going into the corner, it throws you off completely. And a big no-no, Joe, a huge no-no is don't go into abreast. It just cannot work. So you will find drivers getting the blood rushing to their head. They're coming up fast on the drive in front of them. I say to these drivers, brake and go in single file. You cannot go too wide through the bus stop. That is just not on.
I'm hearing that we've got a battle in C3, and that is between Carvalho, Bourne, and Mertz. So let's hop back to that and see what exactly is going on. And in fact, we've got, who is that side by side? It looks like Fladmark is on the high side of Utzel. So they are coming up to, what is this, the start-finish line, it looks like, and they've got a C2 car coming into the mix as looks like there is a car ducking off into the pits, and so now it's a two-car battle. And that was Carvalho who ducked into the pits. Coming towards turn one for these two cars, it looks like Utzel closes up on the back of Flatmark. They've got that lap traffic on by, although they've got a few more cars coming up behind them soon, so that's going to throw some more wrenches into the mix, Dusty.
Yeah, definitely. These guys, this is going to be a tricky one. There's a lot of traffic going on right now. I think they made they both made, took pretty good advantage of that C2 going by. We'll see how they come through here, breaking in through the horseshoe there. You might actually try to make a move coming out here. Nope, you don't quite have enough throttle to get out of there and get past somebody. Here we go. This is a critical corner. Watch them how they bounce going around on there onto the oval, and we'll see if he tries to make a move going into the bus stop.
Boy, Utzel did not look very sure coming around. His car was a little squirrely, and you can see it now. He's starting to get dropped a little bit by Fladmark as João Vaz goes around the outside of them on the high side of that banking. And yeah, just even though the draft is starting to come into play as they get towards the end of it, at the start of that banking, it looked like Utzel was just dropping, tenth of a second after tenth of a second because he got squirrely.
Yeah, there's like a big bump right there at the apex of that final turn 6, going out onto the oval side. And the way the MP4 is set up right now, it's like it just picks up off the ground, and you have to be real light on the throttle there. There's definitely kind of a wider line that you can take that's a little less bumpy, but of course you're losing a little bit of time going wide, so it's a little bit of a compromise there.
Well, Utzel had to back out just a little bit to let another C2 car go, so that's broken up this battle a little bit. We are going to go to break and come back after some music and commercials. We have 30 minutes left to go, guys, less than 30 minutes, so we are at the tail end of this race. We'll see you at the other side all the way to the finish, and we'll enjoy some commercials. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. We are in the final portion of this 2 hours at Daytona in the first round of the EnduroPro Series. Real quick reminder, if you want to get a hold of either EnduroPro or GSRC, you can catch us at facebook.com/EnduroPro Series or on Twitter at EnduroPro Series, or for GSR Channel, it's at GSR Channel. And we will answer questions and try to keep you informed if you are curious about anything. But in the meantime, real quick, let's go through the field and figure out what the top 5 for each class is. In C1, it looks like Troy Schultz is leading still, Kevin.
Yeah, still, and no doubt about it, he's got a nice handy 60-second lead. It's just monstrous. He actually got in and out of pit lane and did not surrender the lead. That's how big his lead is right now. And that car is just pristine clean right now. In second place is Anthony Kopech, who's had a strong run. He has also got a clean car out there, no damage, so he's done well, even if he is somewhat adrift to Troy Schultz. And third is Iker Estefania. His car has not been particularly clean throughout the race. He's picked up some damage here and there. But he is about 16 seconds behind Kopech. In fourth in C1 is Dennis Gurry, and he definitely has picked up quite a bit of contact on that car. That is a lot of damage. He's about 60 seconds behind Iker. In fifth would be Joao Vaz, who's about 20 seconds behind Denny Gurry, and he's had some struggles today, and seems like he's just kind of surrendered any battle right now. It looks like maybe just trying to get a little more comfortable with the car and mixed class action today, Joe.
So it looks like the attrition has played a huge role in that top class. Meanwhile, I think the same could be true for the C2 class, Richard.
Yes, the C2 class is being led at the moment by Stefan Overgaard. Second in this class is Andre Martins. Now, he's cut back Stefan's lead very significantly. It's only 6 seconds at the moment, which is a lot less than it was earlier on. So Stefan has got a bit of work to do to stay ahead in this class. Andre Martins in second place. Manuel Sanchez, he is way back, another 38 seconds or thereabouts in third place. Francesco Esteve Albert is in fourth place in the class. Sean O'Hara is bringing up the fifth place. And I might as well mention that João Oliveira is in sixth place because he is the last of this class at the moment, still running. We do have Tim Abbott, I believe, still running, but he is way back. So that's what is happening right now. I'll keep an eye, Joe, on the gap between Martins and Overgaard to see if it's getting smaller at all.
And in the meantime, it looks like we've got stuff going on in the C3 class because the lead just changed, Dusty.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, Paulo was just having none of that. We were talking about Joao Cardoso having a really great pit strategy, but man, Paulo just put the pedal to the metal, and he's been pushing on his tail ever since. Last lap, he got in with drafting distance and has just been running a fantastic race these last 10 laps or so. So now, in first place for the C3 class, we have Paulo Martins, followed by Joao Cardoso, followed by our teammates Patrick Pitchler and Tom Valentini, who seem fairly content being draft buddies throughout this race. I've seen them occasionally swap positions now and then, but they're basically sticking together. And then we also have Cedric Finzak a bit back, bringing out the top 5.
Yes, and most of the action, as we were saying, with everyone being so spread out and there being such high attrition in the other two classes, has been here in this C3 class. And with this battle for the lead, I want to stay with this for a while. It looks like Joao is kind of holding on to the draft now. They've swapped around. I'm wondering if this was strategic, because that was a strange place for Joao to have let Paulo by.
No, I don't think that was. I don't think that was strategic. What I'm seeing now, Paulo has been creeping up on Joao this whole time. I think the pressure's getting him to a little bit. I've seen on at least 2 occasions Joao at this point has made mistakes, going a little wide, getting into the dirt, missing his brake points. He's just not running quite as accurate as Martins is right now, and that's how Martins got past him.
And that's something we haven't touched on yet, is with this being a long race, there's a lot of fatigue. And this is sim racing, so it's slightly different from real-world racing, where you've got that adrenaline to keep you really focused, you know. Talk to the viewers a little bit about, you know, what it's like to be trying to drive these cars in a simulation for 2 hours.
Oh, trust me, when you get into a battle like this between Martins and Cardozo, there is no shortage of adrenaline, at least for me. I mean, sometimes it'll feel like my heart is trying to pound out of my chest. I was talking earlier about loving Cardozo's style, about getting right up onto the tail of him and then backing off and doing that lap after lap, just, you know, not making any risky moves, but sort of acting like he might. And that is very frightening for a car in the lead. And what's awesome to see is at this point, after everything got mixed back up, Martins just played the same game right back at him. He's just slowly crept up, just absolutely relentless pursuit. And Cardozo, you can tell he might be getting a little tired. Now, it could be a situation where this is the type of driver, you know, you have some drivers that do good when they got a clean road in front of them. And they run really clean, and they don't care about what's behind them. And there's some drivers that do best when they have somebody up front to chase. So we're going to see that now. You know, he might have just let his guard down a little bit, let Paulo pass, and now that he's got that bright green target right in front of them, we could see Cardozo at his best.
And I'm glad you touched on that. Racing is really a mental game. I think people not familiar with this sport really don't realize how much of it is in your head, because yeah, you have to be fighting these other guys on track and be faster than them, but obviously it's very strategic, and you know, there's stuff that you can do to rattle the guy in front or behind you, or just you know, get them kind of out of rhythm and try to get them out of their comfort zone to allow you an opportunity.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just the thing I love about it, and I say this again and I love about racing, is the combination of competition and cooperation, and it's such a tight balance. If you're out there doing hot laps by yourself, you know, it's you can always get faster. You can always get a little bit faster by hitting your marks just a little bit better, and it just takes so much focus. But when you start adding other variables, you know, such as somebody right on your tail, then emotions get involved. And it makes it really, really hard to be that accurate when you've got all of this distraction. Oh, look at this going into the horseshoe. Man, they are close. That was almost a contact there between Cardozo and Martins, trying to make a move on the inside and just not quite having it. He's pushing really hard. Like I was saying, I think this is going to be Cardozo at his best. Hopefully they can keep it clean, and if they do, this is going to be a fantastic battle.
Yes, and I want to stick with this battle just a little bit longer. We are hearing that there might be a battle brewing for the lead of the C2 class. Richard, if they get close enough to start that going, please jump in. But for now, let's stay with these two guys, because they are less than a second apart between Paulo Martins and João Cardozo. We've got 15 minutes left on the clock. Just a quarter of an hour to go in this 2-hour race between these two top drivers in the C3 class. Paulo Martins and João have been going at it for this whole race, if you are just tuning in, and it's just been a chess match between these two. There have been very few mistakes between them. They've been just driving immaculately, Dusty.
Yeah, definitely. Both of these guys, they definitely deserve to be out in front of this race. You know, they haven't gotten into any trouble, but they've definitely been in a lot of tricky situations. It's been a combination of good, clean driving and good strategy, and that's what really, you know, it's all of the little variables added up that put these guys out in front. And now it's just a mental game. These guys have both shown that they can run about the same pace, so it's just a matter of who can maintain better focus longer.
Absolutely, and you can see it looks like Cardozo continues to close up, under braking, continues to close up under that draft, waiting for a chance to come. He knows that this could come down to a draft battle, and let's see, we're 60 laps in, we've got, you know, like I said, less than 15 minutes to go. I kind of wonder if he's thinking, I'd rather be the second place car when we get to the last lap rather than the first place car.
No, I don't think so. Based on how he's driving right now versus how he was driving when Paulo was behind him, this is a totally different guy. As soon as Paulo got past him, this guy's, I mean, he's just on his bumper. just solid the whole time. I mean, it might come down to a thing where he'll try to have Paulo make a mistake and then capitalize it, and maybe not, you know, try to push himself too hard. That would definitely be a smart move, you know, especially when you're adding points up over the entire series and everything like that. But we'll see. He's definitely, you can tell, you can smell the adrenaline on this guy right now.
Yeah. I don't know that I want to smell anything these drivers after 2 hours of racing, but I'm just thinking, like, with the draft, Zhao keeps sizing him up, and, you know, like you said, he's playing that mental game of getting right on the bumper, but the more laps that he spends behind Paulo in second place, leading up to that start-finish line, knowing exactly how much that draft is going to pull him in, he knows just how close he needs to be, just how much he needs to launch out of that bus stop. I really think he is thinking, all I got to do is get a good exit out of the bus stop when we see that white flag, and I can just scream on by.
Yeah, I think there's probably a pretty good chance that we'll see a pass on the last lap.
And that's just something that you see a lot here at a track like Daytona, especially with the lesser powered cars. That, again, like we said, you got to take a page out of NASCAR and learn how to play it strategically and think down the line, not just think, I want to pass right now, which I'm sure a lot of road course drivers are more used to, just trying to get past that next guy and build up that gap and run a quiet race by yourself. You know, we all love a good battle inside the car, but when points are on the line, you want to sometimes you want to just be able to run away to the finish and not have to worry about the guy behind you, and that's certainly not the case at a place like Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, when the draft plays this big of a difference, yeah, you can use it to get past the guy, but unless you can get way past the guy, that means he can just use it to get past you again, too. So, you know, the smart move, I mean, he's sizing him up here, you know. The smart move might just be to wait till that last lap. You get past him, and then he doesn't have a chance to pull the same move on you.
Well, a similar situation seems to be brewing. We've got Stefan Overgaard being hunted down by Andre Martins, Richard, and he seems to have closed the gap quite a bit over these last few laps. In fact, now he's really caught up.
Well, Stefan just had a really bad exit out of the infield onto the banking, and that has given Martins a chance to basically take over the lead, as he's doing that right now as we speak. Stefan tucks in behind him going into the bus stop, but Stefan was definitely under pressure for many laps, seeing that Andre Martins catching him slowly but surely. And he has now relinquished the first place position in the C2 class to Andre Martins. Now, with still something like 10 minutes to go, he is in the draft. I would say he is now in a really good position to see what Andre Martins has got for him, Joe.
Yeah, what's the pace been like between those two since Andre's been closing in? I mean, how much faster has he been over the last, I guess about a dozen laps as he's been reeling him in?
Well, he's been doing something like a half a second to 3/4 of a second better than Stefan Overgaard in the intervening laps. And he's also had a bit of luck with less traffic to deal with than Stefan Overgaard had, or he's dealt with them better when he has come up to them. So he caught him over a period of about 10 laps, maybe even longer than that, Joe, but now we can see if he runs away from him or whether in fact Stefan can keep him in sight, because he definitely is looking really, really good as he comes out onto the banking once again. He's extended that gap, so I don't know, this battle had come and gone before we even had time to blink an eyelid.
Whoa, wait a minute. The lead has changed, and it's not because a pass was made. Paulo, speaking of pit strategy, must have run out of fuel. He's pulling into the pits.
Oh, that has gotta be heartbreaking. And once again, you have to watch out for those things. Paulo pitted very early, so I wondered about that. But once again, you can't just show up at the track and run fast laps. You have to know what kind of fuel mileage you got, how your tires are going to behave over a long run. This game, Dusty, is more than just the time on the clock.
Yeah. I mean, he obviously just topped off a little bit. He's already pulling back out on the track, but he's definitely not going to pull a podium out of this, with this small amount of time left in the race.
Yeah, Pitchler and Valentini just went by as he exited, so he's going to have to book it to try and catch those guys. Less than 10 minutes to go. I'm not sure that it's enough, as you said, for him to try and get back onto the podium. But if he does, you'll have to let us know. Boon for João Cardoso. He dominated in the race at Suzuka, and it looks like, even though it wasn't as dominant, he is going to be able to run away with this thing, bar any mistakes. But let's hop back to Stefan Overgaard and Andre Martins and see what's going on with there. See if Stefan's been dropped at all. And it looks like, whoa, with some traffic getting in the way of those guys. In fact, that was Mark Hewitt who's going to have to let Stefan by as they go into turn 6, and that's going to hold him up just a little bit with a less than optimal line, Richard.
That is correct. Stefan was making up time as Andre Martins got caught in traffic. But Andre Martins has cleared the traffic, as has Stefan, and Andre showing his superiority once again as they get onto the banking section, heading into the bus stop. Let's see what happens through the bus stop here. Stefan's pretty good through the bus stop, but Andre Martins, did he get a slow down there? Oh, Stefan hangs on to it grimly. He just had an enormous bubble right there, Joe, and nearly lost the car, and that would have been the end of it for him. But he hung on to it, and he's now been passed by 2 of the C3 class, and that has hurt him. That definitely has hurt him, Joe.
I don't know if we saw that on air, but if we didn't, I definitely want to see a replay. So let's watch that one on replay. Oh, I'm sorry, we already watched that actually. So wow, just an incredible bit of driving from Stefan to hold onto that car. I was hugely impressed. But thankfully, Manuel Sanchez is a long way back. But boy, that's hurt the battle between these two. I have to say, Richard, that one of the things that I was trying to get into Andre Martin's head, this has got to be a very good feeling for him, knowing that as this race has gone on, he didn't have the lead for a long time, but to know that his pace, all he had to do was be patient, and the race came to him. I mean, that's got to boost your confidence.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you see in a long race that you are catching somebody, and you know that you are faster, the confidence you get, you seem to be able to do things that you wouldn't do if you were, say, in the lead and somebody else was catching you. So he's just gone from strength to strength in these last few minutes of the race, and his confidence has grown, and he's leading now, and leading very, very well. Stefan, on the other hand, has slowly been showing signs of either fatigue. Certainly, he's not been as clean as he has been when he was leading by a long, long distance. So he's struggling at the moment, Joe.
I love the moment you had out of the bus stop for poor Stefan there, calling out a bit of a Stella moment, crying out for him. But I think we all kind of pull for poor Stefan, because we've seen him in a number of series that we watch that he's always been there or thereabouts for the lead, but it always has to just be a whole lot of luck for it to play into his hands, because he just can't quite seem to catch the brakes.
Stefan is a really, really good driver. We've seen that on many occasions, that he's been able to lead races, he's been able to challenge for the first place, but he never quite seems to hang on to it. As we see him go back onto the grass again, he's pulling out all the stops now, Joe, trying to catch Andre Martins, but I fear for him, if he's going to push this hard, that he might actually overcook it and do himself some damage there. So let's hope he just keeps it clean for the remaining minutes and settles down, because it looks to me like, oh, a car spins in front of him right there. It's all happening at the moment, Joe.
I was just about to hop to that too. That was Paulo Martins trying desperately to get back onto the podium, and Dusty, he was so close he was going to be able to fight for it, and that pretty much sealed the deal.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. I was just about to call out again, Paulo, no! I mean, you gotta imagine when he was probably immensely shaken up by the fuel issue, having to, getting into the lead, fighting back against Cardoso, and then having to stop to top off on fuel. I imagine he was probably pretty shaken up. He was pushing super hard to try to get back onto the podium, and it's so hard to keep your head cool. He just got loose. He spun it out,
Yeah, you know, when you make a mistake like that, it messes with your, like you said, your confidence and your focus, and he's got what we call the red mist down. After that, you're like, I gotta make up all the time you can, because you know that you've lost time due to your own fault, or I guess if you have a crew chief, your crew chief's fault. I'm not sure if Paulo has someone talking in his ear, but if he does, I sure hope that he is trying to calm him down right now.
Yeah, that's an interesting point too, because here in iRacing, that's a feature that a lot of people might not realize that exists. You can actually have a combination spotter and crew chief join like a spectator and actually talk to you in the ear and replace the automated one. He can tell you when there's cars around you and everything like that, but he can also make adjustments for you for your pit stops, calculate your fuel and stuff like that. So that's the type of thing that, you know, you never know. Maybe João Cardoso has a crew chief and Paulo Martins doesn't. And that, in a race like this, you know, would make all the difference.
And if it is the case, I mean, we've seen evidence, as you said. So João Cardoso continuing to lead. In C2, Andre Martins continuing to lead. In C1, Troy Schultz continuing to lead and absolutely dominate. We've got less than 3 minutes to go, Kevin. And we saw it last time. We saw it this time. Troy is, he seems unbeatable.
He definitely seems unbeatable, although we do know that prior to this race, he was definitely talked about how concerned he was about the speed of João Vaz, and you know, was definitely trying to keep his cards a little closer to his chest, but it's not bothered him today. He has just been the class of the field.
Absolutely, and you saw him dealing with some of the lap traffic there, trying to go by the MP4 of Fladmark. And speaking of Vaz, Vaz is actually a lap down at the moment. We've got some more cars trying to peel through there. And actually, is that a battle that I spied for the C2 class? Oh, I'm sorry, no, that's...
No, sir, maybe further down, but at the moment, we did have Andre Martins having a big moment there going through traffic. He split two cars, one on the outside, one on the inside. He went right through the middle, and his heart must have jumped straight into his mouth right there, but he got through safely, still leading.
Yeah, and with less than 2 minutes to go, that just goes to show you can't relax in this mixed class endurance racing. You know, you can get all the way down to the wire, and you can throw it away. The different classes playing a part in trying to keep the car on track, see what other people are doing, look out for the mistakes of others. You could drive immaculately, and that guy in front of you might spin. Speaking of which, Andre Martins starts to spin coming out of the bus stop, and oh, he gets tagged! Oh! Andre Martins is into the wall. He gets hit from behind at the end of the race, and now he clips an MP4 as he comes down the banking. This could be the end of this race. His car is smoking. Stefan Overgaard is going to close up on him. In fact, he's already passed Stefan Overgaard, inherits the lead with less than a minute to go.
Absolutely, that was tragic for Andre Martins. He was coming up on this MP4 car, I think, and they touched, and he got spun around, he hit the wall. And Stefan Overgaard, as you just said, Joe, anything can happen. Stefan Overgaard now back in the lead once again.
And we have a white flag out. Oh my goodness, poor Andre Martins had this thing wrapped up and it was stolen from his hands. Troy Schultz is coming around for his final lap as he comes to the banking. This is going to be the last section of the course, so it looks like this is going to be the checkered flag next time by. Just as we said, Troy Schultz, class of the field, but you know, we keep talking about it, guys. It ain't over till it's over, and I think Andre Martins just learned that the hard way.
Yes, and Andre Martins has just crossed the start-finish line. He is going very, very slowly around the track on the apron. That's just not the way you want to see a race end for somebody who drove so brilliantly for 2 hours. But that's racing, and you called it, Joe. You've got to be so careful, particularly when it comes to the end of the race. I really feel for
I'm
this
sorry
guy.
to butt in, Richard, but Troy Schultz is getting ready to take the checkered flag, wins round one. of the EnduroPro Series as he weaves the car across the line in celebration. Stefan Oergaard in the C2 class is starting to come around right now as well. He is looking like he is going to take the win, a surprise win for the first round of the EnduroPro Series here at Daytona. Well done to Stefan Oergaard, kept his nose clean through the whole thing. Meanwhile, João Cardoso, I'm not sure if he's finished or not. Let's check to see if he has taken the checkered flag. Looks like he's still got a little bit to go, and he has no worries because Patrick Pichler is behind the car of Troy Schultz, which means his race has now finished as he takes second place, and that's going to allow João Cardoso to run as he pleases. As long as he crosses the line, he is going to take the win in C3 class, Dusty.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have been pretty spread out for a while. The two teammates, Patrick Pichler and Tom Valentini, which were running together for a very long time, they got split up by traffic, a number of laps ago. So that was pretty much cinched. Paulo Martins, made a really good run. He's crossed the finish line now too, and it looks like he possibly has already disconnected. So it looks like he's going to be in fourth place, and João is now coming out of the bus stop, and he's just about to come across the start-finish line.
Yeah, in fact, he had Cedric Finzak and Mark Sargent still battling in front of him. He was going nice and easy, letting those guys duke it out. I don't think he wanted to finish with a broken car, but he is coming off of NASCAR 4, down the pit straight here, up to the start-finish line. João Cardoso wins round 1 for the C3 class in the EnduroPro Series. Well done to João. We are going to go to break now that all three of our leaders have finished their race, and we are going to come back with some interviews and give you the unofficial results. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the EnduroPro Series. We just witnessed round 1 at Daytona International Speedway, finished up with Troy Schultz winning the overall. We apologize if we have to get through these results really quick here. We've got another broadcast coming up, so let's run through these unofficial standings. Troy Schultz, the overall winner. Anthony Kopech taking second. Iker Estefania finished third. Dennis Guri finished fourth. João Vaz took fifth. Then winning in the C2 class is Stefan Overgaard, sixth overall. Then Manuel Sanchez in seventh. Francisco Esteve Albert in eighth. Andre Martins in ninth, and 10th was Mark Muckey. Kevin?
Richard, do you want to take the 11th?
Yes, all right. So, Ja Oliveira was in 11th place. Sean O'Hara finished in 12th place. Then we go to the C3 class. The winner there, João Cardoso, great race. Patrick Pilcher in 14th place, sorry. Tom Valentini in 15th place, but third overall in that class. Paulo Martins in 16th. Andreas Olmensberger in 17th. Mike Sargent in 18th. Cedric Finsack in 19th. And 20th place, Derek Waller. Dusty?
And following up with the C3 class, we have Mert Util in 21st, Nilton Carvalho in 22nd, Mark Hewitt 23rd, Omar Zanchi 24th, Bjorn Erik Vladmark 25th, and then our back markers here in various classes, we have Tim Abbott in 26th, Lars Conrad 27th, Jarrett Lawson 28th, Ruben Velasco 29th, Raman Sayez in 30th, and Kevin O'Keefe in 31st.
Real quick, we've got some interviews. We're going to try and pull some people in here. Overall winner Troy Schultz is waiting in the wings, so let's pull him in real quick and ask him about that race. Troy, it looked like you kind of had a breeze through on this one. You didn't have João Vaz, although you had some worries earlier on with his pace.
Yeah, I mean, it's hit or miss here. You never know. I found a good speed, got comfortable with the car early, and I really like this track, so nothing like Daytona at night.
You are 2 for 2, even though this is officially round 1. How does that make you feel about the rest of the season playing out?
Well, I know people will pick up their pace. I'm going to be out the next race, so it's going to be a little bit of catch-up for me after that.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time. And sorry, we have to be a little bit brief. We've got another broadcast coming up, but thanks for talking to us.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you in a couple weeks.
We also have João Cardoso, the C3 winner, and I believe Dusty is going to talk to him.
João Cardoso, how do you feel about that win?
Pretty good. Pretty good. It was. I've calmed down now a bit, but it was pretty hectic out there.
Yeah, that last battle there with you and Paulo Martins looked intense. I could tell that when he got past you, that the adrenaline really kicked in on your side, and you were really pushing on him. Did you expect him to have to pit?
Yes, we were actually discussing it over TeamSpeak. Not TeamSpeak, voice chat on the server. I have to apologize to the other drivers. I thought we were on a different channel. I said to him, because I saw he'd pitted a lot earlier, so I thought there's absolutely no way he could save that much fuel. He's going to have to pit. I knew I didn't because I'd spent the first stint lifting into every corner. So I just told him, go ahead. I know you need to go quick, so go ahead. Make as much of a gap, and I think he actually thought I didn't have enough fuel and that I was using him to get to the finish. So he kind of joked, I guess you I see what you're trying to do there. So I said, no, I have enough fuel. I know you need a gap. Go for it.
That's wonderful. You know, we talk a lot about all the intense competition, but also cooperation that the drivers have to show. It's good to make friends out on the track. But it was a fantastic show anyway, and thank you so much, and congratulations on your win.
Thanks, guys.
Well, we have one more person to talk to. Unfortunately, he was not the winner in the C2 class. That went to Stefan Overgaard, and we unfortunately can't talk to him because he had to hop over to the next race that we are going to be broadcasting as well. But we have Richard Losper with Andre Martins here.
Andre, that race had a really, really sad ending for you. Tell us about that.
Well, not much to say. I kind of lost the rear of the car exiting the last chicane, and when I thought I couldn't control the car anymore, I managed to get it, but then when I looked at the rear view, I saw a bomb coming directly at me, so the guy couldn't also avoid it, so well, it's a bit sad, but well, last lap, that's what it is.
Well, you know, Andre, you're taking it very well. I mean, that was heartbreaking to watch. You had caught up to Stefan after being quite a long way behind him. At one point, you were
30 seconds.
Yeah, a lot, 20 seconds or more, and then you came out of the pits, and there was only a gap of about 6 or 7 seconds, and that was all racing. You caught him up on the track and passed him when he had a little bobble coming out of, I think it was the
entering the banking, yeah.
There. Yeah, and so then you were in the lead and actually going away from him, and to see that happen at the end there was, we like to say, tragic, but that's racing, I guess, hey?
Yeah, it is. It's racing. Well, I just have to thank, actually, basically it's my pit crew, because the guys on the TeamSpeak, one buddy of mine, Jorgen, was helping me with the fuel, so he made all the calculations for the last pit. So I knew exactly that I could gain him something more on the pitting if I did a good pit entry and exit. Didn't change any tires, so I knew I would be spot on right away out of the pit lane. So I just went quali laps, man, 38s right away. There's no tomorrow, you know. I just knew I had to push really, really hard the last half an hour, so I just did it. And also I need just to say sorry a bit to the guys, because when that happened I had a bit of a 5-second explosion there. But it's all good now, so it's just racing and it was fun. I gotta thank also to Mario and all the guys from EnduroPro series. I hope this is a very, very interesting league, and we can do more racing like we did today. And also you guys, also very nice broadcast and everything. Thanks, you guys.
You're very welcome. Thank you for those kind words. We will let you go on that. There's always a couple more races to come, so well, quite a few more races in this. So thank you for talking to us, Andre, and glad to see you taking it so well. Back to you, Joe.
Thank you guys, man. See you.
All right, well, real quick before we go, we want to give the Drive of the Race award, and we have decided to give that one to Stefan Overgaard for an excellent drive to the win, held on all the way and stuck with it. But let's give some thank yous as well. We want to thank you, the sponsors of the EPS series, that is Daco Designs, also the organizer, Mario Beaudry, and thank you to our software and hardware that we utilize to make this broadcast happen, iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch TV, Audio-Technica, and AverMedia. Thank you to the team today, Richard, Kevin, Dusty, Giancarlo, also our spotter Brian, who helped us out. If you'd like to find out more about the Global Sim Racing channel, you can see it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and race highlights. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at facebook.com/Global Sim Racing Channel. A special thank you to Eric Ekholm, who provides us with much of our music. You can find it not only here on GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and Spotify. If you like our music, tell Eric where you heard it at ericekholm.com. Also, thank you to Casey Lalonde, who also provides us with music for our broadcast. You can find more of his music at caseylalonde.bandcamp.com. The next race in this series is Mid-Ohio. That takes place on Saturday, February 15th. Kicks off at 11 a.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. This is turning into a fantastic series. And we are going to see you very soon with the MX5 World Tour. That is at Bathurst in a few minutes. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.